Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
Hey, welcome to the PO Show, Hollywood, California. Thanks for joining us. Okay, just so everybody knows, and maybe this is not the proper time to say it, but I never know what I'm going to say next. Okay, this is the last show on Saturday. Saturdays at 4 are not going to happen anymore. I'm coming back on Monday, probably the 14th. It'll be Monday at 1. You can watch it on your lunch hour. I guess. I don't think it'll be worse, right? Anyway, Monday at 1, starting probably the 14th. This is the last show of I say the season, so that I sound like really appropriate. Okay, so PO Show, Hollywood. We're going to talk about the exciting world of architecture and making stuff like with our hands and with our building techniques, say. And with paint. We're just going to use paint, though. just paint. Okay, so before we start, I want to remind everybody, Evan Stone and the Translucent Ham Sandwich Band is going to be at the Mint here in LA, 6010 West Pico on 8/31/15. So that is a Monday, so August 31st. It's a Monday. Check it out. I talked about, he was here as a guest before, and I talked about the amazing collaborations that he does. Actually, George Dubin is one of our guests here today, and you have a relationship with Evan Stone as a drummer, and we'll talk about that, because George is also a drummer. Okay, so anyways, you got to check this out. There's sexy, hot women doing hula hoops and fire dancers, probably. I don't know if they allow that in the Mint. There's comedians. There's magicians. There's an array of artistic people, and a lot of the show is improv, and it's super cool. And also, my wonderful friend and co-host of Spoken Word, Spoken Song, John Gardner, poet, will be there doing his performing his coffee poem that is actually in Evan Stone and the Translucent Ham Sandwich Band's newest album, which you have to get to, which I should have brought so you could see it. But anyway, you've heard all that before. The Belladonnas. Okay, they were here last week. I'm sure you guys enjoyed the show. That was really super awesome. Okay, so they are going to open for the Suicide Girls on September 12th at the El Rey Theater. Check that out too. And I think that was all. Okay, and then one more really huge shout out for someone that's been following and supporting me as a promoter and as a creative for many years now, and we've never met in person. He's from Amsterdam, Netherlands. His name is Remco Ogendorn, and there he is. And he's just a kindred spirit, and he's just so amazing. So the intro music for this show is by him, and also a lot of the not the clips, not the clips, but the videos that I do, and I'll shout them out today because I have 2 videos for the guests we have today that are backed by his music. So, and you can find him on. Can you go to his? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so his is it SoundCloud? Yeah, SoundCloud. You're all free. And you can download this music, you can listen to this music. It's very interesting. It's techno music. He doesn't really classify himself as a musician, though I think he's an absolutely amazing musician. One of the songs in this lineup is actually one that I wrote the lyrics to. It's called Serenade, and we collaborated from, clear across the ocean, and it's just fantastic how people can creatives can meet in such a way that have not met each other but have so much in common and artistically can come together like that. I know that's not the only story of how that's happened. Okay, so today we have, you guys all know him, Jorg Dubin. He's been on the show before, and he's amazing. And I'm gonna introduce you, Jorg. You are, and let me just say, the reason behind this show, the primary motive behind this particular episode is because Jorg is also a curator for Q Salon, right? Q Salon. Q Art Salon in Santa Ana, and a show's coming up with our other guests. So Jorg Dubin, tell us where you're from and what you do besides painting, because you're here for kind of a different purpose.
Well, I maintain a studio in Laguna Beach. And
maintain's a good word.
Yeah. It's a quiet little hamlet on the coast, about 60 miles south of here, as everybody knows, and it's got a little challenge in terms of its own creative community, but I'm hanging on there by a thread, for some reason. I mean, it's a nice weather. It's got nice weather there.
No, but see, that's part of what we're going to talk about today, because you're a painter. I have Biggie Smalls in the background here, which you painted.
Yeah.
And you can check him out, georgedubin.com, right?
Yep.
georgedubin.com. It's really easy, Dubin. But Jorg he's made his career out of art. And the way he's done it is not just an artist and not just a painter, but you do sculpture, you're a designer, creative consultant.
Yeah.
You do architectural types of elements and bigger pieces.
I've done some, quite a few, public art sculptures for various municipalities and private
municipalities.
organizations.
What does that mean? I need my dictionary. I'm sorry. I'm
It's
from
like
Humboldt.
it's like a town.
I don't have a big education.
It's like a town or a village.
Jorg lives in Laguna, where I live. I live in Laguna too.
So I also I've done some prop work and art direction for a gentleman named Steve Odekirk, who a lot of people might be familiar with. He's a comedic screenwriter, director, in the movie world, things like Bruce Almighty, Patch Adams. There's quite a few under his belt, but I've done some prop work and art direction with him. The thing about trying to make a living as an artist is if you're solely focused in one arena and that isn't working out so well, you're kind of screwed, So.
Well, you got to keep moving. You got to keep going to whatever artistically you can do to make a living.
Well, that's it, and that's I've been fortunate to have enough skill sets to sort of branch out and keep the thing moving so I can stay afloat. So.
I was going to do this kind of a different way, but I think what I want to do, Jake, I think I want to go ahead and cut to a break, because I have a video for Jorg Dubin. It's actually cut 11, but I'm going to switch them. Okay, so there was the comment before on this show about lazy artists get a job, right? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Right. Okay. So, and a lot of people, I think, and this is terrible, but a lot of people, oh yeah, you just like hang out and have fun all the time. But this is an example of, okay, George has made a living and made a career out of art, and this is how he has all of these ways that he's creating, and that's what all creatives need to do. They can't just like sit there and wait, or I mean, that's great and everything, but you definitely have to keep the wheels moving, be creative in whatever it is. But so this is. I know I haven't talked. George Dubin's been on the show, but we haven't talked about or seen this part of him. So there were some paintings in there, but it was mainly about structures.
You kind of dug into some old jewels there. I haven't seen some of those things in
but
a long time.
You know what? There's such an array of what you do in like 3-dimensional that people. I mean, I don't think my audience knows that part about you. They just know you paint these nude girls, right? That's as far as we got with you. Well,
somebody has to do it,
Somebody's got to paint the nudies. Okay, so and you're really you're a really kind of hands-on guy anyway. Even with your painting technique, you really dig the manual.
Materials are a big thing, and I've have a sort of a broad array of skill sets in terms of using different materials. I mean, I started off as a ceramicist for 20 years, and along with that, painting, learn how to bend sheet metal and make stuff out of that, and cast concrete and all kinds of other things relating to 10 years spent in the design industry, working on people's homes, and taking all this learned knowledge of materials and applying it to now making artwork out of it instead of just pieces of furniture or something for other people.
Yeah, there's something you said in here. Okay, first of all, the corporate jets that there were a lot of them. Actually, probably every one you did was on there. The corporate jet series, Museum of Craft and Design in San Francisco, was where they were in 2013. Fighter jets, they were 87 by 61, sculpted from sheet metal and painted like notable luxury brands to drive his power of the corporation concept into the stratosphere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's lofty.
That's pretty lofty. No, but I didn't write that. Actually.
No, I didn't either.
See, that's what makes it like correct, and that's somebody's opinion of you and what you did there. So that's totally valid. But what were we talking about? There was something you were just saying something that actually there's something in here that talked about exactly what you just said. Creative solutions outcome real. Okay. And I can't find it, of course. I have all these notes, and I have them highlighted even, and you said something that. Basically taking a project, a manual kind of somebody needs this done, and making it an art form out of it.
Well,
creatively.
When I was teaching at the Laguna College of Art and Design, I always told the students in the undergraduate program to, absorb as much as they can and learn as much as they can, because when they get out and have to be in their studio and have a studio practice and be self-motivated, it's a hard thing to do.
It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, and the more skill sets you have, the more likelihood that you'll survive without having to work at Denny's or Starbucks or something like that.
Oh, I think this is it. Let's see. Dubin specializes in creative. Yeah, this is it. Creative solutions with positive outcomes as it relates to fine art, commercial art, production, and design. So it's the positive outcome, the artistic outcome is what he's going for. And you saw in there all of the things, the gate at that was super cool. And that wasn't long ago. That was what?
No, that was last year. I designed and made that. I was for an architect who was doing a little remodel on that property, which is a pretty unique property in Laguna.
What's going on with that property? That's a strange structure. What is
well,
that?
it was built by a guy who had a couple of piano stores back in I think the 30s or the late 20s. He built it for his wife. It's called Pine Castle.
Yeah, but was it a residence?
It was a single family residence,
okay.
and
That's
now it's 16 apartments.
Okay.
So it's
so beautiful.
It's a pretty unique property, but they never had an entry gate there, so people thought it was a museum or some public thing. So there was always people wandering up the driveway. So they finally got around to doing a gate, which the architect hired me to design and build.
And it's really awesome. It's really amazing. Okay, since this other guy is just kind of sitting there like, oh my goodness, when is it
Yeah, you
my
got to
turn?
get Chris in on this one.
George, can you introduce Chris?
Well, Chris Mercier is a friend of mine. We met. What do you think? Like 5, 6, 7 years ago at an art opening, and stayed friends and stayed in contact. I mean, we don't live near each other, so we don't hang out all the time. But
If you did, you would just drink.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Isn't that what you do?
Yeah.
I mean, we really got nothing to say to each other. We just sit around and drink. Anyways, when I was given the opportunity to curate this show at the Q ART SALON in Santa Ana, I got a hold of Chris and asked him if he'd like to do it. And his work and my work, if you look at it like superficially, you wouldn't really understand why these two things are connected.
You know what? And Jake, can you go to method 1 and 2, because I actually have those. Well, it's not the exact ones you posted, but it's that yours.
Yeah.
And your kind of way of painting it, and his. So
right.
Those are those. Yeah.
So there's a little contrast if you just look at it, like I say, sort of superficially,
Right.
but. When you really drill down on what we both do, it's really a lot about, the use of materials, the use of paint, surface,
You know what? And I'm not going to read it, but the description you have of the show. Did you want to read it? Because that was really cool writing. Do you want to?
Why don't you?
No, I don't think I can even see it. It's really small. You posted it really small, but it's really cool how you said it. I'll say the first sentence, and it's like literally like this big. Okay, so when the visual content of painting becomes an equal partner to the, I can't even read that word, methodology of paint application, surface acts as a vital component of the final composition. So we're talking about the paint not only, and we'll get to into this more with Chris, but not just the paint's color attribute. That's not the right word. The color, not just the color of it, the color of paint, but actually the how do you say that? The material of it.
Well, it's also the tactile and surface quality of paint.
See, there's so much. I'm not an architect, and I don't know much about stuff.
Because paint can be dimensional, and I think Chris's work really embodies that more than mine. But you can see that relationship in the two in the works through the use of materials in a more structural way, and I think Chris's work really embodies that.
So let's go into more of Chris's work and what that's all about. So I'll just kind of go through. Okay, these are some quotes from Chris that I found online because I'm the total stalker. My paintings are focused on explorations of the workings of the pictorial window and its relationship to space. So basically rethinking the material of paint, not only a pigment, that's the word I was looking for, a medium of color and texture, but also a construction for making material. So who wants to explain what you do, Chris? What exactly you're... Because if somebody just said that to me, I would have no idea. George described it to me before I looked into it and saw your photos. But now I understand what you do. But I don't think a lot of people would completely understand.
Yeah, it's basically based on the idea that, if you look at the history of painting has always been about the image. And that's why they have pigment, right? You use the pigment, use the color, and you make an image out of it. And so using that kind of as the basis, I tried to look at it and say, well, as an architect, if you look at painting, why can't you take on paint as more than a color pigment material, but also as a construction material? So if you really build paint up, or if you cast it, or if you apply it in a way where you actually can build it into a three-dimensional form. So now not only is paint a pigment, not only is it an image, but now it's also a formal project that goes into sculpture and goes into architecture.
It's so well said, because, I can completely understand what you just said, but
Yeah.
I've seen it, so maybe we'll have to do that
I have
again.
no idea what he just said.
There's two of us.
Really?
Wow.
That's kind of how you said it to me, but in a George Dubin way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you think about this technique, George?
Well, I think it's really. I visited Chris's studio for the first time about a couple of months ago, and of course, I've seen the work.
You went to a show of his or something, right?
Yeah,
Before
but
that?
I've seen the work, but I didn't really. I haven't seen the process, so it was interesting to me to have him sort of show me, like, how he goes about building these sculptural paintings, and it's interesting because it's very it's not like super high science, I wouldn't say, but there's just this like really organic quality to how these things get put together, and I'm really drawn to that because it really is about like the use of material in a really different way. Like you take house paint, you paint a wall with it. Well, Chris is taking house paint and he's casting it,
exactly,
and then making these constructions out of it. And it's really earthy. It's really organic, and I relate to it because if you look back at my ceramics or really anything I do, it's got this sort of like dug out of the earth quality to it, and sort of this lots of dimensional quality, and so.
And you're also doing those dots, which I don't have any examples of. But explain the process of that, because I know that's pretty.
They're
labor intensive.
Yeah, they're pretty mechanical. I've always wanted to. I always want to experiment with other ways of creating, recognizable forms through the use of
like women bent over.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I had to say it. Oh boy.
Well, it's one of my favorite subjects.
One of my favorite images.
Yeah. So
subjects. Is that what you said?
Yeah. So I came up with this process. It's, like I say, it's part use of computer technology, and then also just using paint without a paintbrush, which is also one thing I like about Chris's work.
Like with a pastry.
Well, it's not that I usually.
I know, but that's what I would use. I would totally use a pastry.
So these are like big plastic syringes, but I'm mixing this.
A syringe.
Yeah, I'm using this really thick acrylic paint, and
makes you wonder about George Dubin a little bit.
It's squeezing out these. They're basically individual pixels, and they look like little drops of candy or something, but they're very dimensional and pretty organic. Even though they're very organized pieces, they have a different quality in terms of if you're close to them or far away. And far away, you see the image. Up close, they become these very abstract forms.
Super weird. But you did the same thing with paint swatches.
I did a few of those with paint chips you get at the paint store.
And big.
Yeah.
They're the one in your house is really big.
Yeah, it's 6 by 6 feet. It's not that big. It's
6 by 6 feet.
Yeah.
That's like to a Polina, in a cross.
Yeah, again, it's using that was using store-bought paint chips as pixels.
But you don't see it from afar. You don't see what it's made of. It looks like this person. It's a portrait.
Right. It's a big portrait.
And then when you get up, you see that they're these little paint chips from the hardware store.
Yeah, with all those funny names that they name.
Isn't that great? I would love to be the namer of the names of paint. Wouldn't you?
No, because I would take it to a really wrong place, I think.
Okay, we better change the subject.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk more about Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody says anything. Okay, Chris, tell us about your.
I'll say this.
Okay, say it.
So what George was just talking about, he was talking about how with the syringe, and he does a very mechanical process with that thing, and yet if you move away, you get a really abstracted image.
Exactly.
And it's like in my work.
That's kind of similar to your work.
Well, it is and it isn't in the sense that because where I spend a lot of my day as an architect in an architect office, and I deal with a lot of mechanicalism all day long in terms of accuracy, drawings, process and things. And so when I go in the studio, I kind of look at things, and I think he's doing the opposite.
That's
with
totally
this process,
right.
Because I'm going at
so.
it in the studio, and I loosen up, and I don't want to have any rigidity, and I don't want to have the formal kind of process, but I want to have a freedom of just making, because it gets me out of the architecture part. And I think the balance of what I do, the architecture, and what I do here, gives a good balance. And now George is responding in the other way, where his other work is really, there's an organic, just kind of painting process, and now he's moving into a mechanical kind of thing.
Okay, you know what? I have to say that, and then we're going to head out for a break, but I have to say this just because I do these clips. I'll show you this clip video on the break. But this was, and it's so irrelevant in a way and so relevant in another way. I had Jacqueline DePaul and Pedraza, the photographer. I had them on a show and we talked about fashion. Completely kind of different concept, right? But we're talking about someone coming from a creative photographer, basically, coming from the creative standpoint or coming from the mechanical or the, more analytical perspective. And how you can come from either way, but that it's somewhat harder to leash on to the artistic side because that's like this weird, it's a weirdness, right? It's a disease per se, but people come from different sides of it, and it's just interesting because we were talking about the same concept. Here we're talking about architecture and art, and there we were talking about fashion and fashion photography and art. So very cool. Okay, so Jake, let's cut for a break. On that note, we'll go to clips. Stick with us. In this episode, we are going to celebrate fashion.
Jacqueline will say, well, let's do this. And I'll say, I can do this. And she'll say, but I want this.
Isn't fashion even wearing what you want to wear or portraying yourself how you want to be seen? Tell me that's not creativity. And I know...
dramatic posing, and we're actually going to get on the cover of a luxury magazine in Dubai.
Do you want to push yourself further? Do you want to get more out of life, or do you just want to settle and lay on the couch and eat chips? I don't know.
You become a character that the other players build on you. Then the photographer has to take that whole thing with the background and make it into an impactful image. The photographer is almost like the conductor of the orchestra. So
I started with Versace and Armani and Yves Saint Laurent, and so I don't know what it is. It's just a perfect alignment of everything. Oh God, this is amazing! And the designers were in charge of the trends, and now the people have taken over.
Consider fashion as the greatest expression that you can give the world on an everyday basis. I'm not... Am I on? I thought I jumped the gun. I kind of did, and then I didn't. Okay. I thought more was on there with the clips of that show, but what was super interesting is Jacqueline has dealt with both sides of the photography world. And we have Brian Lynch. Fly on the wall. I don't think we can see you fly on the wall. Oh, we can see Brian. There's Brian! Okay, the official photographer of the Poe Show. Okay, Brian's back. But you'll appreciate this because we talked about this actually on your show. Brian Lynch, since you're here and have no microphone, but you have a camera. The interesting, like I said, where you come from as far as like an analytical side or a left brain or a right brain, creative side. And Leslie Pedraza is very much the right brain, but she was like this high fashion model, like big time. She was on the cover of Cosmopolitan magazine. She was like huge time, and decided after years of modeling that way that she was really turned on by the camera. So she went to that side, but she came, and then she realized her creative outlet. So she came from this creative side, and she talks about it. Like, I think there was a clip in there that you saw that it was like, I don't know, something like just happens. Such the creative mind, right? It just happens. And then there's this other thing that you're kind of both, Brian, because you come in as kind of in a really logical way, but you see this creative thing, but then you put logic to it. So you're kind of in the middle, actually, of kind of these guys, because it's
definitely a push and a pull kind of thing.
But you see the creativity, you see the flash, and then you start figuring out how to make that happen. So you I think you're already kind of in the middle.
It's funny though, because what I will do is actually try to make it harder on myself for some reason at the same time.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
how can
because
I
you're
make it
Brian
better?
Lynch.
Well,
Duh.
it's just so you don't get bored
Saying duh.
or bored of what you're doing, you know,
Yeah.
because it can't be so formulaic, I think.
So, but George, but where do you think you come? You come from like more of an artistic view, and then probably more like Brian, but more from probably the creative side, and you figure out how to make that happen. No, your eyebrows are going up, so I don't know. If
Well, I'm not a formally trained artist, so everything I know pretty much is just comes from like I just get out there and start doing it.
creative
And
side.
and
If you say you're not a formally trained artist,
well, what I'm getting at is I really have this belief that you just dig in and you make stuff, and some of it's a failure, and you have to be willing to fail, and sometimes.
but who judges that? You judge that? You're like, oh, that's
Well, we're all sort of our own, biggest,
critics.
critic of our
Yeah.
of our own work. But at the same time, we all know artists and people in all creative fields who are kind of frozen by their own
Exactly.
thought patterns. So that they're way too concerned about what everybody else is going to think about what they're doing, and
Exactly.
and so they don't really do anything. And to me, like I've just led this life for the last 40 years of just every day I make stuff, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'll let some other people decide that. I don't really, it's not up to me to decide it. That's down the road, so.
Okay, so and Chris comes from an architectural background. That was kind of, I guess, where you started, and your passion was really heavy into architecture and building big stuff. And
Actually, no.
okay,
No, I
tell
actually
us.
started. I was going to be an artist. That's all I was ever going to be. I was going to be a painter.
Well, you had the itch.
Yeah,
you had the artistic.
I was
itch.
painting ever since I was a kid, all the way through high school, college, and it wasn't until leaving high school when someone said, "Oh, what are you going to do?"
And you said artist, and everybody
Well,
laughed, and you said, "Okay, no, architect."
Well, I know what I did. I did this amazing thing for that age. I said to myself, "Well, if you become an artist, you can only do so many things."
Exactly.
When George has actually pushed the thing,
He's
and I
pushed
said,
it, like
"But
he's
if you
a-
become an architect, I can still, you can become an artist. You can't do architecture. But if you become an architect, you can still do art. You can do sculpture and things." So I said, "Okay, I'll go architecture because it widens your scope."
Exactly.
And so
Smart
that was
man.
kind of the process.
Wise move.
right.
Well, I mean, I don't mean because you're not a good artist. I just mean it's
No.
because there's a little bit more.
Career-wise, yeah.
Well, there's a little more economic security and
Yeah.
having.
So you came from the artist and moved. Okay, I can do this other stuff too. And he came from more architect, but I can do the artist too. So it's still kind of two
Well,
ways.
Yeah, it's a couple different paths that sort of meet in the middle somewhere. Where the you're driven by certain economic needs. So that's why I expanded into having a
I
design
hate that
business.
part.
Well, we all do, but I mean, the best thing for to really be an artist free of all those things is to either be a trust fund kid or have rich parents or something,
But
Okay, those are the only two options because I have neither of those, and they're the same option,
or
right?
marry into it.
Yeah,
but I think
no.
it's good. It's good to be forced to. I mean, the trick is that if you're forced into a financial thing, it's not just to go to, like you're saying, Starbucks or something like that. It's to find a work opportunity that allows you to push another direction of creativity.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have to be able to kind of that cognitive thinking of thinking, okay, if I go here, I'm kind of going to be dead, and I'm either going to buy that as time that I'm kind of not thinking.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go somewhere else and try to find another way. And so, I mean,
No, totally, because like a Starbucks job, there's nothing.
yeah.
You go,
You're either going there and you're saying, okay, I
You're
don't
in
have
the
to think
wheel.
at all. I don't
Yeah.
need to think at all. I'm just going to let my brain, be whatever, fry or
so
whatever you want to call
you're
it.
just you're just as I put it on the couch eating chips. Because
Exactly.
that's what it feels like. I mean, if you're just like, how that feels. You're not doing anything.
Well,
Good.
that's why there's such a great attrition rate amongst artists coming out of art schools, because once they get out there and they have to really face the real world and deal with how am I actually going to make this happen, a lot of them just crumble and they don't go anywhere.
Okay, you know what? Tell us more about that, because you're actually you're a teacher. Maybe not currently. Are you currently a teacher? Or
I'm
more of a mentor.
I'm on the mentor list for the MFA program at LCAD, which.
But you were a teacher for years, so you've been on the other side of that, and you have to tell your students something, right? When
Well,
they say, I'm going to be an artist, you're like,
Yeah,
"Whoa."
there's a you know, when I first started teaching, there was a real balance between like going, hey, let me tell you what the real world looks like.
Yeah.
And you see this, this blank look on their face,
Yeah.
and they start freaking out and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I don't know if I want to come back and keep doing this.
Yeah.
And you realize, like, if you're part of art academia, that you have to sort of toe this sort of encouraging line. Like, you can't paint the black picture of what it looks like in the real art world.
Yeah.
And because the administrators want you to get those kids to keep paying the tuition, so. And I realized, like, I don't really play that game very well because I'm too much of a realist. I'm like, hey, let's.
And that's why they kicked you out of the Grand Ole Opry?
No,
Is that what did it? Is that what sent them over the edge?
It could be.
George is a musician too, and a good one.
Well, thank you. I don't know about that part. Well, anyways, what I'm saying is that, you have to be encouraging to a point, but, I can't do it, when you look at all these kids that, are aspiring to be artists and at the same time, their skill sets are very limited and you're just like, maybe you should rethink this instead of, getting 100.
Maybe you should be an
seriously.
architect.
Well, I mean.
Have you thought of architect school? I have this
Have
friend.
you thought of Starbucks as a career?
Yeah. Architecture can be painfully worse at times.
Anyways, so it's a hard road to hoe for me to have to play that game. So that's why I'm not teaching full time anymore. Or I was never a full time teacher, but I'm not teaching at all right at the moment.
Okay, I think we're going to cut for a break, and we'll be right back. So stay with us. We're going to talk more about this fascinating topic. See you soon. Okay, welcome back. Jake, you love that music, right? Isn't that super cool? And I believe that song is called Building. I'm pretty sure.
Alternative Dimensions.
Oh, no, that's not the one.
I'm sorry, of the music in the video?
In the video.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant in the
No,
going in and
I
out
know
music.
what. That's my theme song. It's Buildings, right? Yeah. Or Building or Buildings. Singular, Building. So Building. So that's Remco Ogendorn from Amsterdam, Netherlands. Thank you, and I'm gonna keep doing this. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this, Rummy. We're gonna make this happen eventually. So great music. Everybody's got to check this out. You're all free on. Can you show that just one more time, Jake? On SoundCloud. Check out his music. It's really useful. It's really great, and it's. It kind of, I can use it in a lot of things. It's my intro, like I said. It's on a lot of, that was perfect. It's called Building, and it really sounds really kind of mechanical, and saws and hammers and, right? Not so much hammers, lots of saws, like kind of metallic sounds. Anyway, okay, we're going to get back to Chris. Okay, so talk about let's talk about the show coming up at Q ART SALON in Santa Ana.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And what we can expect.
Well, you know what is it like? I don't know if you guys saw. Do you guys have a picture of the card? You probably don't have the card where the two different paintings, George's and mine.
I did show that. I didn't
you?
show the specific painting that George put on of yours, but I showed one of yours. Yeah,
because we're trying to do a thing where we're trying to mix the work in the gallery in a way, or curate it and set it in some sense where the pieces play off each other.
I think it works.
And some of them directly, like the two that George put on the card were amazing. I mean, the woman crossing her legs.
That was just a really serendipitous thing. Yeah. Like I was playing around with the images, and all of a sudden I stuck them there, and I went, wow, it's like they're like mirrored images.
I couldn't find that image of Chris's that you posted. That's why I didn't put it on there.
Okay. May not be online or something.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So.
But anyways, you know what Chris is saying in terms of the relationship between the imagery is really. It's really striking to me when you get the work together like that, because we spend a lot of time trying to sort of come up with like what's the binder between our work.
Exactly.
And we went back and forth quite a bit with like a dialogue trying to nail that down, and I think we finally did at the end, and but the visual connection is a lot more than you expect, and that's what's interesting about it.
Jay, can you show those just one more time? Those the method 1 and 2, just so our listeners and viewers can get another look at that. George Dubin's piece, and this is Chris's piece. So
and that's a different piece that's on the card.
But it is different,
but it has the same quality.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The way the paint is kind of set and played with is, I think, real similar.
Okay, so just so people could be reminded of the way the paint's on there.
So I'm always being told you got to get out of Orange County. You got to get out of Orange County. So I'm out of Orange County today, and I just want to say
I want to go back.
No, it's not that. But I'm saying I think some of your viewers might want to jump out of L.A. County and come down to Orange County and come check out the show, because I think it's going to be really interesting, and I think it's worth the 50-minute drive.
And that is September 5th is the reception, 7 to 10, and it goes from September 5th to October 23rd, and it is at the Q Salon, 205 North Sycamore, Santa Ana, California. So definitely check that out. It's definitely worth. I definitely want to, because I haven't seen your work in person.
Yeah,
I've spent a lot of time with it, but I haven't.
See the three-dimensionality of it. Actually, you can't get it from the picture.
You can't get it in a picture.
Yeah,
absolutely right. And George, you were saying the other day that when you saw it in person, probably a big difference than when you see it in a photo.
Oh, it is, because just the way the light plays off the work, the dimensional quality of it, and also just the dimensional quality of the actual paint is really interesting, because it's Chris is doing something that I haven't seen before, where he's actually making these castings out of house paints and then cutting them up and carving them and reattaching them to these structures, and it's just really interesting, and I keep using the word organic, but it kind of reminds me of something that it's almost got a found object quality to it, which is really cool.
Yeah. But and he says actually kind of a process. The process resembles a cross between painting, sculpting, and architectural modeling.
Yeah, no, that's kind of where it comes out of.
I can totally see
the play
all that.
for making a model, and you just kind of putting the piece together. But you get to do it with color too, which is great.
And you pour. Okay, so you're using paint in a whole nother way. It's paint poured and set into molds as castings, And also you cut it. You cut it like kind of like fudge. in some
Exactly like
cases.
fudge. You know, I grew up in Michigan, and you used to
don't
go to
know.
Mackinac Island where they make the fudge, and it's kind of exactly what you do. You make a sheet of fudge, and you cut it up, and you have different pieces, and you start to put it together.
And also various states of drying, which was interesting to me. Different
Yeah.
states of drying. And what do you mean by that exactly? Because you can probably like mold it a little
Well,
bit?
no, because first of all, I use umpteen different types of paint, which is a disaster.
Is
for
umpteen really a
it
a
is
word
now.
or
I just made it.
or a number? It's a number?
See, this is creative, right? We can do these things.
Totally, we can do this. That's why I have the show, because we can do anything we want.
It's on Wikipedia now.
Yeah, exactly. Just
no,
made
it's
it.
on what is that? What is that? That new dictionary, the Urban Dictionary. That's what I go by.
All right.
By the way.
No, but so there's a ton of different type of paint, and some of it will dry hard where you can cut it, and some of it will dry like a bag where the outside dries and it's wet in the middle. And then I apply it to the canvas or the
and
board.
You can do stuff
then
with
you
that.
can cut it,
Oh,
and then
gosh.
it oozes out, and so you can.
Those are
see?
really interesting.
Does that sound cool or
Yeah.
what?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Okay. Yeah, interesting. And you use an additive and reductive, meaning add to. How would you add to?
Well,
Just layers of.
Well, sometimes I cut it. So you cast it, you cut it, then you apply it to the thing, and then you
And then
get-
you add to
and then,
it.
Well,
You
then I
add
may
more.
cut it away and take some off, back and forth.
That's super interesting. I really have to see this in person. Okay, and so he says here the materials of paint take on two roles. Its traditional role as a color pigment and a new role where it is actually treated almost like a construction material used to build the three-dimensionality of surfaces.
And so what happens with that is that, you know, if you different types of paint will have a different structural quality. Since
Yeah,
I'm building
weird,
with
yeah.
it, right? So you have to be able to have. It's like some paint won't stand up.
And this is from your perspective and your knowledge in the architectural realm, which we're really, into how, well, I don't know the word, best, what are the words for architectural terms?
Structural. I mean,
Structural, but also like just like how they're made up, like the hardness, the softness,
the viscosity,
the
how it
viscosity. That's
runs.
the word I was looking for. Viscosity.
Settle down over there. We're going to have to ask you to leave.
Okay. I'll leave quietly. Not.
Yeah.
I don't do anything quietly. Okay, so what's your architectural firm? Because you have one.
We do. FER Studio with my partner Doug Pearson, and we're in Inglewood, and we've got it's like a 15-person firm. Started it by myself in 2002, and now
I have that fact.
and we've been
Yep.
we're doing a bunch of stuff right now all over the city.
Okay, so you were born and raised in Detroit, Michigan.
Yep.
You didn't get into cars though.
You know what? Well,
Thank
you know,
God for that,
you
'cause
always have
that
a car.
blew out.
You always have a car interest when you're in Detroit. It can't go. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But now Detroit's the.
Are you an Eminem fan? Just kidding.
No.
I'm so just kidding.
Don't go there.
Okay, and so, but you have Bachelor of Science in Architecture, and you went to Milan.
I did.
How was your stint in Milan?
It was
That's pretty
interesting.
cool.
Daniel Libeskind, he was the guy who won the Ground Zero project in New York years ago. But at that time, he was just a theoretical architect when I was there.
So you're really pretty psyched about the path you took. That's so great. Yeah,
That was good. I mean, it was
that was good. That was a good choice.
good choice. I lucked out.
Well, Chris also worked for a guy that I think is kind of well known. Who is that?
Might be Frank Gehry.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about him. George Dubin.
Oh, I'll
Chris.
leave that to Chris. He worked
Okay,
for the
Chris.
guy.
No, Frank's amazing, and we're actually doing some projects with him now. So it's been a really great experience. I was in the office for 10 years at Frank's. Got to do all kinds of things, amazing projects around the world. And then when I left the office and started my own, and now 10 years later, Frank, we're kind of back collaborating on some stuff where he's doing the design stuff, and we're helping out and getting these things built and go forward. And it's been just an amazing experience. Very thankful.
Okay, and I want to. There's this interesting thing that I found. What? Okay.
What is that
Jake's
thing you found?
pressuring me.
Yeah.
He's pressuring me.
What's
I
that
don't
clock
like
doing?
this symbol thing. Okay, hold on. Now you see, you made me go slower. Do you see how that worked out? Okay. I'm not going to do that then. I'm going to, okay. I want you to show thumbs. Show thumbs because I think that's funny. And I went and saw this, and this is George Dubin actually did all
the prop sets, and I was the art director and
see, he's an architect
production
too for
designer.
thumbs.
Yeah,
this size.
Yeah,
that was super fun. Okay, and also
more to follow.
I also wanted to show my favorite Dubin. Show my favorite Dubin, and I want it real
Nice
bad.
one.
Okay, this is architecture.
That's a good
It kind of is.
Yeah.
Totally is. Are
Totally
you kidding me?
is, yeah.
Okay, so I will say this last thing that I was going to say about Chris's work. His work has always struggled to erase the separation imposed by society between painting, sculpture, and architecture in favor of a more contemporary Renaissance approach to spatial thinking. So he kind of thinks outside the box. So it comes at you. It's not just this 2D, but it's this painting, but it's 3D. And check it out. Q Salon. What's the date again? George Dubin.
September 5th is the reception. It's a Saturday night.
Is there going to be booze?
There's going to be the
Is it going to be hot women? Strippers?
There'll be well,
all the above.
There'll be some gallery wine. You know what that tastes like.
And I did say this was going to be about architecture, but I would show my boobs. That's not going to happen today. I'll see you next time when we come back. Where can we find you, George? GeorgeDubin.com.
That's right.
Where can you find you, Chris?
FERstudio.com.
FERstudio.com. And to find out anything about why am I doing this, cheers, anybody that's been on the show, or if you want to be on the show, wetpuzzlepiece.com. And you can click on all of those social media like things, follow. It'll just take you right there. You can just join, like, friend, all of that. You can message me on wetpuzzlepiece.com. Hey, I've got this amazing thing that I do. Let me be on your show. You got it. You're on. Okay. I'll see you, I think the 14th of September. It's my birthday on the 11th. September 11th. Catastrophe. Okay, see you soon. Mwah!
You are watching T Radio Me, Radio and TV.